Hi friends, come with me as I make a French baguette. This is my starter that's been fermenting overnight. It's just about a half cup of water, about a cup of flour, and then a pinch of dry yeast. And it's been fermenting for 14 hours. And we'll be taking this starter or poulish and combining it with a dough to start forming some baguettes and letting that all ferment. Now that I have my starter, we're going to start to combine the dough. I have my KitchenAid out, plugged in, so the starter is actually going to be the thing that I'm going to throw in first. Get a spatula. So it shouldn't be too slick, but fermented and bubbly, as you can see, and it's kind of moving along. So you're gonna have to help it along here. I'm gonna throw this in. That's now in there. I would say also be gentle with it. You don't want to like force it in there. I kind of just spatulas are pretty good for like grabbing something in terms of like scooping it up and folding it in versus like using a lot of force. So you have a lot of fermentation in here that you want to keep in. We're gonna go ahead and put the starter in our KitchenAid very gently. So I used the spatula to just transfer it over. Didn't want to break any of the fermentation that's already happened here. You want to keep this nice and bubbly and fluffy. And we're going to add in a cup and 2 tablespoons of lukewarm water. Really helpful if you have a thermometer for this. You get it to around like 110 degrees. So we'll add the water in right now. And that's the water added. It's going to look like a lot of water. Don't worry, we're going to be adding a lot of flour to this to even everything out. Breads are hydration doughs, so you do actually want a large amount of water for how much flour you have in there. And then I have just a packet of active dry yeast. We used a pinch of this earlier for the starter, but we're just going to throw the rest of this in here. No need to measure anything out. Like if you have something that's showing you a measurement, you can go ahead and throw in the whole thing there. We're gonna add our salt, so I'm gonna do 2 teaspoons over here. So here's 1, and here is teaspoon number 2. And the last thing that we're gonna add in is our flour. We have 3.5 cups of flour that we're gonna be adding in. And here's the last of the flour. This is just all-purpose flour. If you have bread flour, that is actually better, but I'm just using what I have on hand, which is APF flour. Okay, so I have my dough hook on. I'm gonna set this down, lock it, and then we're just gonna go on a low speed here to incorporate the dough. Should be pretty quick, actually about 2 minutes. And we're just gonna go up to speed 2. We'll let that go. I'll be back in about 2 minutes. Okay, we've done our mixing, so I'm gonna go ahead and lock this and lift this up. It'll be definitely heavier than when you first started, and you've got your bowl of dough there. Make sure you're working with clean hands here. It should be warm from the water that you had in the mixing as well. You may have some stickiness at the bottom. If so, that's okay. It's actually a good sign of it mixing well. And what we're gonna do is throw in some oil in here, and we're gonna cover this and come back in about 45 minutes. All right, I've been letting this ferment for about 45 minutes, and we're gonna go ahead and punch it down. And when I learned how to bake, I had no idea what punching meant, so I literally would just like full force it, but punching is just gentle pleasure and pressure. It should be nice and warm. Just get some air out of here, just very gently. All right, and then it's gonna kind of look like that-ish. And then we're gonna fold in the sides and bring it to the center, and then we're gonna flip this whole thing. So we'll do that, and then we'll ferment this for another 45 minutes. Let me show you how I'm folding this, doing this one-handed, so I apologize for the camera work. And we'll eventually get a better rig once we do this, but I'm pulling in, as I said, the sides into the center. I think one thing to think about too is like dough is actually not that fragile, so using a good amount of pressure to get things stuck together. Feel free to pinch and pull at these points and junctures so you get some nice flatness to it. Kind of comes together. All right, I'm gonna flip this, and I've just flipped it so that center seam is at the bottom now. You can kind of like play around with this to get this a little bit shinier and smoother if you'd like, but this is gonna get fermenty again as well, so don't need to manhandle it too much. And we'll be back in another 45 minutes, and then we'll start to get into baking. And now we're gonna grease this pan with parchment paper. Then we're gonna throw the dough from the KitchenAid bowl that we have, or the mixer bowl, whatever bowl you put it into to let it rise and ferment, and put it on the pan. Throw this into 3 pieces. That's to make 3 baguettes. If you wanted to make demi baguettes, you could do 6 pieces. Demi baguettes would just be smaller, like half sizes of a baguette, maybe more useful for snacking or storage, but we're gonna do full baguettes this time. Cut them into 3 pieces. You may need to use some force to get a clean slot here. You want to make sure that you have a nice seam as you cut these. And then the next step is we're actually gonna make these into balls again, and then they're gonna ferment again for about an hour. So we're still not done with the fermentation process. So now I have them neatly wrapped in 3 balls here for the dough, and we're gonna let this ferment for another hour. The instructions say anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour. The longer you ferment, the better the process and all that stuff, and I have the time, so I'm gonna let it go for another hour here. And then, at least for me, instead of doing plastic wrap again, you can do that because this is going to ferment even more and we have a different shape here, not contained to a bowl anymore. I'm actually going to use a towel. You can use any kitchen towel, tea towel, whatever you have, but you want to make sure that this is back placed into a warm place. Again, what I like to do is actually throw it into my oven, which is currently off, and we'll do that. Gives it a nice safe spot to do its thing and get all nice and toasty. Right, I've recovered the towel that I had for these to ferment more. This has actually been going for longer than an hour just because I got caught up in things. But the next step is we're actually going to form these into the baguette loaf shape. So like a long shape. And all 3 of these will be going into that. So basically all you have to do is just make sure you have a grease down clean place, or you can even just do this on your pan and get it rolled out with your hands. So, we've punched a little bit of the air out from the center and moved it along, just kind of going like that to make it that baguette shape. And so you can see this is the seam. The seam you actually want to have face down when you're piecing onto the pan. We're actually going to do another round of fermentation on this as well. So I've rolled all 3 out, and this is looking a lot more like baguettes, right? So we're going to go ahead and put the cover back on these and let this ferment for a little bit more. These are my baguettes after fermenting for another hour or so. Next would be to cut lines. Your special tools for this, you can use a razor blade. I'm just going to cut lines through with my bench scraper. Or you can use scissors too if you don't have anything like that as a tool. Just make sure that you're making pretty deep cuts here. So my cuts had a little issue on the first one because I was trying to use a scraper and I ended up moving the scissors anyway. In terms of how many cuts, about 3 to 5 is probably good per baguette. What is the purpose of this? Your baguette's going to bake in the oven and steam is going to be created. Just remember, we have water, a lot of water in here, and flour. And that steam needs to go somewhere. And so this allows the steam to escape and allows your baguette to cook and get that crispy texture to it. This is also a good opportunity for you to spray your baguettes as well. So take a spray bottle, okay, and my spray bottle, and we're just gonna slightly spray this. Another thing you want to do too is spray the bottom of your oven. You want steam. So the steam, what that's gonna do is actually prevent the crust from creating at first, but it won't in the long run, and that will actually get you that nice crispy crumb. We'll do another spray in actually about 2 minutes or so. The baguette's out. The first one I definitely need practice on forming. The other 2 look pretty good. A little burnt on the ends here, a little bit longer in my oven than I imagined. If I had followed the recipe precisely, I would have still had them in there for another 10 minutes or so, but you can hear kind of the tactileness, the crunchiness. So I'm looking forward to eating this for dinner. But yeah, I mean, it is a long process to make bread. So if you're ever wondering why bread costs so much or what have you, it is a lot easier to just purchase bread. Takes a lot of time, but sometimes it's nice to have fresh baked bread at home. So here you go.